I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 221, If You Feel Threatened by Other Women. If your husband is struggling with a pornography problem and you want some help with it and you are not finding the resources that you like, you are in the right place. My name is Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach. I am an active member of the LDS faith, and I am the wife of a former porn addict. And on this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools that you need in order to start your healing journey. This is where I'm going to show you how to dive deep into intentional living, how to rekindle connection with your spouse, how to manage all that emotional turmoil that you're feeling, how to break the addiction cycle that you have to your husband's addiction, and tell you all of the ways to do that and start healing. I am so glad that you're here, and I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Hello, my ladies. I am so excited to be talking to you guys today. I am recording this a little bit early because I feel like I'm losing my voice, and I'm really hoping that I don't, because as you guys are, on the day that this comes out is the beginning of my anger management masterclass, August 19th to 21st. So excited about it. For those of you who are joining me for that, I cannot wait. And I hope I still have a voice for that. My husband, I do have to apologize, ladies, to you. You've been getting a lot of emails from me this month. My husband was like, Jolene, I've been getting like 3 emails a day from you. And I said, I know, I'm really sorry. I need to condense them all into just one calendar email that goes out. But I had so many things this month. I had my anger management masterclass. I did a free coaching call this week, which was amazing. I have my retreat information call that I am doing this week on Thursday. So if you're thinking about coming to the retreat, I actually did a bonus podcast episode that just came out a few days ago by the time you're listening to this. So if you're thinking about the retreat, if you're curious about it, if you've never heard about it, go listen to that episode. It's just the one right before this. It's a bonus podcast episode that I did and released a few days ago where I'm talking about what I'm doing at the retreat, what I'm teaching, what it's going to be like. And then also I am doing a retreat info call, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes. For those of you who are thinking of coming to the retreat and have some questions, want more details, you can sign up. That is a free Zoom call that I am doing this Thursday, August 22nd at 12 p.m. Eastern. And you can sign up so you can come find out all the details and get your questions answered. So I apologize for all of the emails that have been going out about all of the events, but I've just had so many amazing and fun things that I needed to let you guys know about, because I hate getting emails of, oh my gosh, I didn't even know about this. And I'm like, I sent out so many emails, and I know that emails get put in spam. So if you guys are not getting my emails, check your spam folder, because that's probably where they are. And if you guys are not on my email list, come get on my email list, because that is where I let everybody know about everything. I try to make sure that I let you guys know about everything on the podcast, but since it only comes out once a week, sometimes there are things that I need to let you know in between the episodes. So you can go to my website, you can sign up for my email address to get on my email so that I can make sure that I send you everything. Okay? All right, today I wanted to talk about something that has come up on a couple of coaching calls, which is if you feel threatened by other women. Now, this is very, very common. So if you feel threatened by other women, then no worries. I want you to know that you're totally normal. Nothing has gone wrong with you. You don't hate the female species. Everything is totally fine. But I want to lead you through a couple of things today that I lead my clients through when they bring this up that should help you really to navigate this and figure out how to start managing this, so it's not something that you have to just try and avoid. Okay, so then I'm going to lead you through, I kind of broke it down into 5 different steps of how we can navigate this if this is something that you struggle with. Okay, number 1, I want you to get really specific about when and where. So for example, if I had a client that came to me and she's like, I just feel threatened by other women. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, when? She's like, everywhere, all the time. And if that is in your brain, you're like, I'm always threatened by all the women everywhere, then I want you to get more curious. Do you feel threatened by the women at the grocery store? Do you feel threatened by your daughters? Do you feel threatened by your family members at your family reunion? And the reason I'm being so nitpicky about this is because there are clues that are really powerful that will let us know some really good information when we get more specific. So let's get more specific. When is this happening? Where are you when you feel threatened? Are you at the gym? Are you at the beach? Are you at a restaurant? And here's something to get curious as well is who's with you when this happens? Do you feel threatened when you're by yourself? Or do you feel threatened when your husband is with you? Okay, these are really fascinating things to know and notice because we want to answer these questions so that we start getting really curious and figuring out what the thought patterns are in our brain that are creating this kind of belief that you feel threatened by other women, creating this emotional response. Okay, and the more you get curious about this, the more answers you get even more curious about them. Okay, I'm at the beach. All right, now we get to go to step number 2. Let's say we've narrowed a location down, right? Let's say I get triggered at the beach. Who is triggering, right? Who do you feel threatened by? Get really specific. Because most of the time when I am talking to women about this and they say, yes, I feel totally threatened by other women at the beach. I say, okay, but not all women, right? And they're like, well, most of them. And I say, okay, let's get specific. Who is it? Because it's not the 9-year-olds. We're not worried about the 9-year-old girls. We are worried, and we're not worried about the 99-year-old girls. And even if your brain says women in bikinis, I guarantee you it's even more specific in that. Are you worried about the woman in bikini who's 79 years old? Are you worried about her? Are you worried about the woman in a bikini who maybe, has a little bit of extra curves on her, and maybe you think, if I were her, I probably wouldn't wear a bikini, but go ahead, girl, Is that the one you're worried about? Most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, the women that we feel threatened by are the women who look like what we think is his ideal. Did that make sense? Was that English? It's if we think our husband would be attracted to them, or if we think they're attractive, that's when we feel threatened, right? And it's typically within an age range, right? Are you threatened by girls who are 14? Or are you threatened more by girls who are, women who are in their 30s and 40s and 50s who look what you think they look really good in whatever swimsuit they're wearing, right? You guys with me on this? You got to get really specific on who it is that you feel threatened by. So again, step number 1, when and where do you feel threatened? Let's narrow that down. And then step number 2, get really specific on who it is that you feel threatened by, okay? Now, step number 3 is what about them makes you feel however it is you're feeling. And this can be, maybe you don't feel threatened by other women. Maybe you feel insecure around other women. Maybe you feel self-conscious around other women. Whatever emotion it is that comes up around other women, this podcast episode is for you. Insert whatever emotion you feel here, okay? What about those women, now that we know who they are, where they are, when we see them, what they look like, what is it about them that brings up that emotion? Okay, and this is really important to get specific about. So again, for example, the reason why it's so important to get specific on who it is that brings up that emotion, or that emotion comes up around them, when we get really specific about who that is, this is an indication, this is a clue as to what it is about them that makes us feel the way that we're feeling. So maybe I feel more insecure or self-conscious around women who I think have a more ideal physical shape than I do. And what it does is it brings up my own physical insecurities, right? So that's why I feel the way that I do around these women, because of things I already believe about myself. And that's the key here, ladies, is that this only hits what you already believe. If I believe that I don't look good enough, if I believe that I should look different, I should weigh less, I should have a bigger butt or better boobs, or whatever it is that I believe about my body or myself, and I then see someone else who I think reflects that belief to me, that's when it will come up. I've talked about this before. If I believe, we only get hurt by what we believe is true. Okay, so if I believe that I don't look the way that I should, and then I see evidence outside of myself that it's true, that's when it hurts. Are you guys with me? For example, if I love the shape of my eyes. So if someone came up to me and was like, your eyes are shaped really weird, I'd be like, you're crazy. Okay, I have beautifully almond shaped eyes. I love my eyes. Okay. Now, if someone came up to me and said, did you know that you carry all of your weight in your midsection and that you kind of have broad shoulders like a man? I'd be like, yeah. It hits different because I believe that it's true. I don't care if somebody tells me that my eyes are shaped weird, because I don't believe that, and so it doesn't hit me. It doesn't resonate. But when I'm already self-conscious, when I already believe something about myself, then it will resonate. So that's what my brain is looking out for. When I believe something negative about myself, that I don't look the way that I should physically, then when I see evidence of it, maybe something somebody says, or even just a stranger who's walking around minding her own business in her own swimsuit, my brain will take that as evidence and it will resonate with something that I already believe about myself. Does that make sense? So that's step number 3, is figuring out what about them, that person, makes me feel the way that I do. And that's going to be something you believe about yourself. It's going to resonate with something that you struggle with. Okay, does that make sense? Now, step number 4, why? What are we concerned about? Okay, all right, so we know when it happens. Let's say it happens at the beach, and it's with really attractive, and it's when my husband is there, and it's when there's an attractive woman in her 30s who I think looks amazing in her swimsuit, and then I feel self-conscious. Why do I feel threatened by her? What is it that I'm concerned will happen? What is the threat? Right? You guys with me with the question? What is it that we're actually concerned about? We might be concerned that he'll find her attractive. And then we just want to keep asking the questions so that we go down in our brain to the bottom, to the core of what's really going on underneath emotionally, right? So we want to ask this, like, what is it that I'm really concerned will happen? And this is just, I've known this so many times. I've coached myself and so many clients through this. It's, well, I'm really worried that he'll find her attractive. The reason I'm threatened by someone who I think is attractive is not because she's attractive. I'm not just appreciating her attractiveness. I'm worried that my husband will also find her attractive. And I'm not just worried he'll find her attractive. Why am I worried that he'll find her attractive? Is because I'm worried that if he finds her attractive, that will be some kind of trigger for him. And why am I worried that that's a trigger? Is because then maybe he'll relapse. And why am I worried about him relapsing? Because when he relapses, I feel the way that I feel when he does, and I don't know how to handle it. So all of this is about your emotions. All of this is about what's going on underneath, because if you don't know how to process your emotions, then your brain will live in anxiety and fear, and it will always be on the lookout for what's going to hurt you next, which is why you feel threatened by other women. It's like you've backed yourself, like think of a wounded animal that's backed into a corner. Only the problem is that your brain thinks is that the world is backing you into a corner, but you don't realize that you're the one doing it. You have backed yourself into a corner yourself. Nobody is putting you there. You're staying there yourself. Okay, does this make sense? When you have been hurt, and this is a beautiful thing that our brain is designed to do. It's designed to keep us alive. It's designed to look out for threats and to navigate them and to figure out how to avoid them so that we don't continue to get hurt. The problem is that we need to be in charge of our brain, because most of the time when it's running like this, it will just have this radar, this BOLO, be on the lookout. That's what BOLO stands for. Did you guys know that? That's what it stands for. So your brain just constantly has this BOLO, and it's always on this radar of trying to look for threats. The problem is if your brain will always find what it's looking for. Your brain has a beautiful system called the reticular activating system, meaning it will always find what you tell it to look for. So if you tell it to look for a threat, it will always find one, which is a really highly anxious place to live your life. And most of the time, it's completely unnecessary. Because what your brain is trying to do is avoid negative pain. Your brain is trying to be on the lookout, look for women who we think are threats, so that you don't have to feel what you think you might feel if that woman who you think is beautiful, your husband also agrees, and then he gets triggered, and then he has a relapse, and then you have to feel the way that you feel when he has a relapse. That's what your brain is trying to avoid right there. The emotion that you feel, the hurt, the pain, the negative emotion that you feel when your husband relapses. And when you understand that, that's what your brain is trying to avoid, and you know how to handle those negative emotions, then it's not something you have to live in fear of. Does that make sense? You guys with me? Does that mean you go actively seeking to put yourself in triggering situations? No. But that also doesn't mean that you need to live your life in a way where you are constantly taking in threats. Does this make sense? And I also want you to notice that the whole purpose of objectively, looking for threats is so that your brain doesn't have to feel negative emotion, and yet it ends up creating it. Because how do you feel when you're constantly looking for threats, when you're constantly taking all of your interactions with women and it's all negative? You feel negative. You feel highly anxious. You feel threatened. You feel self-conscious. You feel insecure. All of those are negative emotions. So here your brain is trying to do you a favor by avoiding negative emotion. And in the process of trying to avoid negative emotion, it ends up creating more of it. It's completely backwards. This is why it's so important to learn how to manage your mind so that it stops being on the lookout and process your emotions, so that when those negative emotions come up, you can process them and let them go, and then retrain your brain to no longer believe the things you believe about yourself that are getting triggered. So that belief that you have about yourself that you're not pretty enough, not good enough, that you should look different than the way that you are, that your husband doesn't like you or love you or whatever it is that you believe, that is something you can change. And when you learn how to do that, that no longer is the thing that gets hit and resonates whenever an attractive woman gets sent to your table to be your waitress. Does this make sense? So if you feel threatened by other women, I want to offer that you go through these 5 steps. I don't think I labeled number 5, but number 1 is when and where. When is this happening? Where is this happening? Number 2, who is it that you feel threatened by? Get really, really specific. Number 3, what about them makes you feel the way that you're feeling? Again, that will come up when you're getting more and more specific about who it is that you feel threatened by, okay? Number 4, why are you threatened by them? What is it that you are afraid will happen? And then number 5 is recognizing that this is because of how we feel. Step number 5 is processing the feeling that's coming up that you don't want to feel, the thing that you're trying to avoid. Identify the emotion that you're trying to avoid. Bring your brain back down that spiral, follow it all the way down, keep asking yourself why. Why am I worried that he's going to find her attractive? Okay, it's because I'm afraid that that'll be a trigger for him. Why am I worried that he'll be triggered? Because then he might relapse. Why am I worried that he might relapse? Because of how I feel when he does. That's what your brain is trying to avoid. Get all the way down to the answer. Otherwise, you're just going to live in this high anxiety state that is not a nice and fun place to live. And that's creating way more negative emotion and anxiety than you need. Ladies, your life is dramatic enough. We don't need to add to it. Your life has enough negative emotion in it. We don't need to add more. Your life has enough anxiety in it. We don't need to add more to it. Okay? So if you feel threatened by other women, do this exercise. Go through this. If you want help, come work with me and I'll help you figure this out. But if you feel threatened, go through these steps to figure out what it is so that you can start to change it. And that's where everything changes. I love you ladies so much, and I'll see you guys next week on a brand new episode. So take care. All right, ladies, if you enjoyed this podcast, then I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. This is where we take everything on the podcast and we actually get to apply it in order to transform your life. And I know that that is a big promise, but it's 100% true. On the podcast, it's like learning how to ride a bike. It's like reading a book, an instruction manual via audio on how to ride a bike. And my coaching program is where you actually ride the bike. And that is what creates the transformation. This is what actually enables you to go from point A to point B, to actually create the transformation that you are seeking. If you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like you are loving everything, but you just can't see the end from where you are now, then I want to help you. Come work with me one-on-one. I have a lifetime access program, which means it doesn't expire. You come work with me. I will help you every step of the way and work with you personally to make sure that you get where you want to go. I can't wait to see you there. Head to my website today, joleneWynn.com, and sign up.